สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับ Welcome to NBT World's The Fireside. I'm Benjamin Ruchopagan.
And I'm Warisa Nidanat Gomon. Every week we have a fireside chat exploring what's going on in Thailand, diving deep into our latest obsessions.
Now, today's episode continues our tribute to Her Majesty, the late Queen Sirikit, the Queen Mother. And today we're going green, literally. We've talked about her influence on various other aspects of Thai society and Thai culture, including our most prestigious performance art, Khon, the mass dance drama. We've talked about her impact on Thai craftsmanship and how she helped to preserve different disciplines that were passed down generationally. Her special impact, we've dedicated an episode to textiles and all of those techniques as well. But what many people don't realize is that she also shaped Thailand's approach to plant conservation.
Yes, but it's not only just gardens for decoration, it's actually scientific, and it's for scientific research. Also for biodiversity protection and also for community livelihood. So it's a very wholesome, very rounded kind of approach to this. And so for Her Majesty, plants weren't just pretty things, They represent food, medicine, cultural identity, and sustainable livelihoods as well. Now, during her travels across Thailand with His Majesty the late King Bhumibol Adulyadej the Great, she saw how deforestation, slash and burn farming, and shifting climates were threatening the country's native plants. So she came up with this idea. And these include several topical species of orchids, medicinal herbs, and also trees.
Yeah, it's very interesting how, those trips across the country informed so much of the projects that came to be, both for her and His Majesty King Rama IX. How, seeing the plight of rural Thailand really informed so many of the royal projects, the royal initiatives, and their approach to conservation, their approach to supporting livelihoods. So in classic Queen Sirikit fashion, she had a real eye for beauty. The beauty of Thai performance, Thai crafts, and in this case, its natural splendor. To protect Thai forests and critical habitats in this country, she supported conservation training, the establishment of scientific institutions, and new ways for communities to benefit from the forest without actually destroying them. Trying not to compete with the interests of people, trying to marry the two interests so that we can live in harmony with nature. Now, today, we're going to talk about how this is all part of her legacy that people can literally still see and walk through, starting with Thailand's flagship botanical institution. Take it away.
Right. So the flagship is actually located in Merim, and that is in Chiang Mai. And it's called the Queen Sirikit Botanical Garden, or QSBC, or QSBG rather, for short. And it's Thailand's first modern botanical garden. It was established in 1993 as a a center for research, conservation, and also public education as well. Now, I've seen some of the pictures. They're extremely gorgeous. Have you ever been there?
What's so interesting is that when I was doing research for this, I was like, okay, right, very interesting that there's this botanical garden. And then when I was finally finding pictures for it, I realized, oh my gosh, I have been there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have been there, and it's very signature, these walkways. It's unmistakable, all these, how they snake through the canopy and how you can feel like you're among the forest without touching the ground. So yeah, I actually have been there, and I've been through some of the greenhouses and stuff. It's so interesting how many different kinds of conservation there are, and it's a real testament to the breadth of her contributions to the field of botany.
I feel like the walkways almost remind me of how the new Benjakiti Park looks like. So it's elevated, and that walkway, I'm not sure if they took inspiration from this or not, but if they did, I wouldn't be too surprised.
Yeah.
Anyhow, coming back to QSBG, and while many visitors come for the Instagram famous canopy walkway, QSBG is first and foremost a scientific institution.
Before you get into that, it's so true that it's Instagram famous or Instagram friendly, because you can see in the canopy walkway that there's glass underneath there's like glass floors so that you can see down into the forest floor. So it is kind of perfect to take pictures with and everything. But yeah, sorry, I interrupted you.
That's totally fair. And if you want to get the best pictures, go during golden hours. I would say 4 p.m.
Yeah.
That would be peak beautiful.
Yeah, like kind of twilightish.
Yeah. Yes. And going to the fun facts, it spans over 1,000 hectares of mountain forests, and that includes a major herbarium preserving plant specimens. It has extensive living collections, tissue culture labs for plant propagation, and a massive glasshouse complex with climate-controlled environments as well. So basically, it's Thailand's biodiversity library, but instead of books, you have orchids, ferns, palms, and rare forest species.
Yeah, like when you were listing out all those things, I'm like, wow, what does that mean? Culture labs, and what does that mean, like herbariums and stuff? But it really does feel like a library of biodiversity, of plant biodiversity, when you go there. So one thing that's really impressive that I really appreciate researching this is that the QSBG is accredited by the Botanic Gardens Conservation International, or BGCI, as a level 2 conservation practitioner. So it's good to see that there is some international standards being applied here. And this means that it's recognized for conservation standards and scientific work. And reportedly, it might be the only one in Asia that has this ranking. So the accreditation matters because Thailand's ecosystems are really diverse. Really anything in the sort of tropical belt of the world has a lot of biodiversity. So to conserve them, you really need institutions that understand the science behind how the plants grow, how they reproduce, and how they thrive and survive in environmental stress. Now, thanks to the QSBG, Thailand now has a facility that can research, propagate, and safeguard the species that might otherwise disappear. And we're seeing that all over the world. So it's never been more important to have an institution like this. And, I like the idea that it's kind of like a Jurassic Park for plant species, so, luckily nothing that's going to walk on legs and eat us or something. But yeah, I'm glad that there's something like this that's keeping, there are many kinds of heritage, and it's keeping our natural heritage alive.
There are tons of plants going on in there, like you said, but if there's one plant that I would love to highlight, it's the orchids, right? So Thailand is one of the world's largest orchid biodiversity hotspots. And the orchid is also closely associated with a lot of Thai imagery. Now think Thai Airways, right?
True.
And also orchids are the divas of the plant world. They're gorgeous, they're delicate, and extremely sensitive to changes in their environment, which makes them some of the first species to vanish, unfortunately, when forests are disturbed.
Yeah, I mean, they're so diverse. There's so many different kinds. And so Her Majesty had a real personal fascination with orchids. And so during her visits to the highland provinces, we're talking about the north and northeast, she encountered rare and endangered species and encouraged efforts to study and preserve them. And this is documented through the Conservation Foundations and interviews with QSBG researchers. Today, this orchid program is one of the most advanced in the region. Now, it includes field surveys and species documentation, herbarium preservation, micropropagation, and that's where you use tissue cultures to grow orchids from tiny samples. There's conservation nurseries for endangered species, and then there's also programs to reintroduce them into protected forests. So it's not just stuff that would only exist in controlled conditions, in lab conditions. It's stuff that we can actually benefit from and make our forest habitats more vibrant, our actual like habitats. Not something to just, keep behind glass walls and stuff.
Right. And one example often mentioned by researchers is the conservation of rare high-altitude orchids, which thrive only in cool, misty mountain habitats. Now, these species are especially vulnerable to climate change. And because orchids are culturally iconic and also economically valuable, conserving them has a ripple effect. Now, They stay healthier, of course. Communities gain sustainable livelihoods, and Thailand keeps one of its most recognizable natural symbols.
It's important to recognize that there are a lot of, it's a niche industry. It's not like as big in terms of scale like some of our monoculture crops like rice or cassava, but it is something that has very highly sought after and very valuable products. It has it creates exports that are very highly sought after in the decorative plant market, right? So some of the ones that you can see here at the Queen Sirikit Botanic Garden is the Bulbophyllum lebaneae, and in Thai that's Long Tao Nari, which I think it sounds very very gorgeous in Thai. It has a very graceful name. And you can see that there is something kind of, it's a very elegant kind of orchid, and you can see it's very exotic and it stands out from the rest of the plants that you'll in your garden maybe. Then we also have Dendrobium senile, aka the old man orchid, which is so strange. I guess senile is the old man part in the scientific name. And when I see this plant, I don't really think of an old man. It's so surprising. And in Thai, it's called Mushani, which I think that's a lot more befitting. I think the Thai names for these orchids, they really have a knack for it, and they make you really want them. And then we also have Dendrobium secundum, or the toothbrush orchid, and that kind of makes sense. And this is the same in Botanical English, which is the Ung Prang Si Fan. So this comes in both white and a more lavender or more violet color, and it is exactly like it says. It looks like the bristles of a toothbrush. So there's so many different kinds of orchids, and it's crazy that they're all considered orchids, considering how diverse they are. So now that we've talked about plant conservation, most people, when we talk about this aspect of her legacy, they imagine national parks, right, or these botanical gardens, but modern conservation also happens at the molecular level. It's really scientific here. This is where genetic banking comes in, Thailand's plant insurance policy for the future. In 2018, the Queen Sirikit Botanic Garden Organization, or QSBGO, signed a major cooperation agreement with biotech NSTDA, Thailand's leading biotechnology agency. Their goal was to strengthen botanical research through DNA barcoding, genetic databases, and long-term storage of plant material. So it's kind of like the Human Genome Project, but for plants.
Right. So why does that matter at all, right? Well, if the species disappear from the wild, whether that's from deforestation, climate change, or disease, the genetic record allows scientists to identify it, understand it, and potentially propagate it again. And this conservation is at its deepest level possible. And it fits Her Majesty's vision, which is to protect the country's biological heritage before its loss. So very long vision from the Queen.
Yeah, exactly. And it also helps researchers match the wild species with how they're going to be used in agriculture, in medicine, or ecological restoration even, whether or not the plant has a role in helping to restore a habitat from environmental degradation or from human development, And whether we're talking about restoring a damaged forest or studying medicinal plants, which is also very, a growing and thriving industry in Thailand, it's traditional medicine and herbal medicine, the groundwork is already here. The groundwork for all of those industries for us to sustainably and commercially benefit from the forest and extract from the forest. The QSBG's genetic banking work means that Thailand isn't going to be starting over at zero all the time. We're not just we're not shooting in the dark when we're trying to create commercial species. So one thing that we love about Queen Sirikit's legacy is that her environmental work was never separate from people's lives. It wasn't this separate thing that her private project that nobody else could touch, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the Support Foundation, which we talked about before, and which many people associate with weaving and crafts, also had a major ecological dimension. Now, support wasn't only about beautiful textiles, it was about giving rural communities sustainable ways to earn income, and often through plants. Now, villagers, they receive training in growing mulberry or mon in Thai for silkworms. They have cultivating dye plants for natural colors, managing small nurseries even. They have restoring degraded land with useful native species and also learning basic watershed protection. All of these activities, they showed up repeatedly in Supports Foundation's training and also in royal development materials.
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand that there's to understand the connection between all of her projects and the people. Like in the end, you know, she may have witnessed deforestation, but she also understood that, you know, the people, they had to deforest, or they resorted to deforestation for certain reasons. And if you give them new reasons to make a living, if you give them sustainable ways to make a living, then you don't need to degrade and deforest and the natural wildlife and their natural heritage, really. So this was a very simple but powerful idea. If communities can benefit economically from healthy ecosystems, then conservation and livelihoods could reinforce each other back and forth. This is the same philosophy behind her support of botany, which is to protect biodiversity, not just with science, not just with creating these DNA barcodes, but with real people who understand its value, not separating it behind an academic institution, but involving society, involving the community. So this allows it to be rooted in everyday life, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Now, if there was one thing that the late Queen understood better than most, it's that conservation won't last unless people understand why it matters. Like, you always want to go to the why, right? And that's how people would feel, more connected. And that's why QSBG and other royal supported institutions places such a big emphasis on education, from school outreach to hands-on workshops to public exhibitions. Now, QSBG offers training in multiple areas, and some of them are plant taxonomy, nursery practices, forest restoration, orchid propagation, and conservation biology techniques. So tons that you can learn from.
Yeah. And again, just to reiterate it, this is not just for scientists, this is also for, teachers who want to come here for workshops, students for field trips, families, they come together. It's super family friendly to learn about the native Thai plants through these interactive exhibits. And I remember when I went there, it was very educational. I did feel like I wasn't forcing myself to go on a field trip or something. You could go from the glasshouse complex, which shows the different ecosystems, from arid landscapes even all the way to the lush sort of tropical landscapes, to the medicinal plant garden, to the Highland Research Zone. The outcome that I hope that this botanical garden provides is that there's a new generation of people who recognize the value of Thailand's plants and really know how to protect them, or know why we're protecting them in the first place.
It's kind of like how the Queen helped build not only gardens, but she also created guardians as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And anyway, all of this research and conservation work can feel very scientific, but the best part is that you can experience it yourself. Now, these places aren't hidden in academic journals. They're actually open to everyone. Like we mentioned before, you can just go in and take a nice little Instagram selfie there as well.
That's right. So we'll start off with, we'll recap this first place, but we have a few other places that you want to check out.
Yes. So let's start with the crown jewel. Now, the Queen Sirikit Botanical Garden, or the สวนพฤกษศาสตร์สมเด็จพระนางเจ้าสิริกิติ์ in แม่ริมเชียงใหม่ And that's where you'll find the glasshouse complex, which is the largest in Southeast Asia. And each glasshouse simulates a different ecosystem. There's the rainforest, there's the desert, the cloud forest, and aquatic plants. Plus, there's the Canopy Walkway, the orchid nurseries, and restored highland forest trails. And unlike many gardens around the world, QSBG includes active research zones. You're literally walking through living conservation work.
That's right. But if you can't make it all the way out to Marim and you're in Bangkok, you can get a sense of her botanical legacy here as well. Now at Chatuchak, there's the Queen Sirikit Park, which is kind of an urban green lung in its own right, dedicated to nature education and Thai plant diversity. So here you can see a lot of varieties of lotus, bamboo collections, herb gardens, and shaded ponds. It's actually a really gorgeous part of the Chatuchak Park complex. I think it, like you look at the walkways and the pathways, it's not just asphalt, it's like tiled and everything. So it's a really well-maintained garden. So this is sort of a reminder to all of us that botanical learning doesn't always have to be in a remote mountain on some expedition or in a lab, right? So beyond the major sites, you'll find her influence in community nurseries, forest rehabilitation areas, and Royal Development Learning Centers across the country.
Yes, and these are places where local people grow native seedlings, restore watersheds, and learn sustainable land management. All ideas echo the Queen's conservation philosophy. So whether you're a plant nerd, a casual visitor, or someone who wants a peaceful walk among rare trees, there's many ways to connect with her botanical legacy.
Then we have the King Rama 9 Park, or Suan Luang Ro 9, all the way over in Prawet district. So still in Bangkok, but just a little bit on the outside. This park was built to mark His Majesty the late King Bhumibol Adulyadej the Great's 60th birthday in 1987. And at 500 rai, or 80 hectares, this is a massive park that's divided into 6 sections. We've actually talked about this in our parks episode, so go check it out. Now, however, there are also several homages to the Queen Mother. There's the Botanic Building, which is basically the hub for all things plant-related. And outside the building, you're going to see several amazing pieces of petrified wood. And inside, you're going to find the Plant Museum and the Botanical Library. This is also where botanical teams work, study plants, and share information with visitors and other organizations in the field of botany. Then we have the herbarium, which is an archive of plant specimens. You'll find everything from dried samples to plants preserved in liquid. This is perfect for anyone who's really interested and a real enthusiast of plant classification, or just curious in general just how diverse plants really can be.
And of course, there's the stunning lotus and water lily garden. Now, with more than 200 varieties blooming in rotation, it's a vibrant and almost magical spot. Very beautiful if you ever go there. Now, one highlight is the Queen Sirikit lotus, a special hybrid known for its vivid purple petals, a color rarely found in tropical lotus species. And you can see this remarkable plant growing right here, right there in the garden.
So if you were going to pick one for the day, between the crown jewel, the Queen Sirikit Botanical Garden, and the Queen Sirikit Park, and then all the very thoughtful homages in the King Rama 9 Park, which one do you think you would go to?
I would have to say the Botanical Garden in Chiang Mai, because that's the only one that I haven't been to before.
Yeah.
Right. Both of the ones that are in Bangkok are gorgeous, so I can't imagine how even more beautiful it could be up in the north.
Yeah, I think what I like about the Botanical Garden is that it's in forest, It's not just a green lung in Bangkok, where you're going, it's this perfect oasis of nature within a concrete jungle, but having a sort of monument to natural conservation within a forest, I think is really cool. And it just sort of it's like green on green, so I really appreciate that. So yeah, that's my answer as well for myself. I think I would love to go back to the Botanical Garden. But the one I haven't been to is actually the Suan Luang Ro 9. That's
right.
the one, So Oh, maybe I would rather go there just to get all three,
Yeah,
experiences.
got to collect them all.
Yeah. So Thailand is one of the world's biodiversity hotspots, and that means that we have an incredible number of plant species and an incredible responsibility to conserve them. Her Majesty saw early what scientists warned us about today, that losing plant diversity not just affects the forests, it affects our water, our food, our medicine, our culture, and our livelihoods if we're not too careful.
Right. And we mustn't forget that her botanical initiatives were never just about flowers. They were about multiple things like preserving genetic resources, ensuring rural communities could thrive without harming forests, building scientific institutions for future generations, teaching the public to see plants as natural treasures, so on and so forth. And so Thailand is still benefiting from those decisions. We have stronger research labs, preserved seed banks, ongoing reforestation projects, and thousands of people trained in conservation. And now we turn it over to our audience. Have you ever visited Queen Sirikit Botanical Garden, Queen Sirikit Park, or any other green space connected to her conservation work? And are there any plants that have made an impression on you today?
Let us know in the comments section of NBT World's online channels. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Spotify.
Thank you, and we'll see you in the next episode. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับ